Chapter 8 is titled Rational Functions. Within the chapter, we're going to do an extensive amount of factoring. I thought it would be a good idea to have a brief review from all the types of factoring we've done up to this point in Algebra 2. We're going to start off with some simple factor completely directions. When you factor completely, remember there can't be anything left in the parenthesis that breaks down further. Now, when it's something that's not even quadratic, like 4x minus 12, take a look at each term within that expression. They don't have a variable in common, but 4 and 12 have a common factor. We could take a 4 out of both of those terms and leave it 4 times the product, x minus 3. Now, the purpose of our factoring in this chapter will be to reduce fractions that have matching factors on top and bottom. So it's important to get these kind of rules down correctly. Now the second one, x squared plus 5x minus 6, notice there are 3 terms with no common factor. If the number in front of x squared is 1, remember we go right to that constant at the end. What are numbers that go into negative 6? Well, we could do 1 and 6 in some way, or 2 and 3. Here's where it's kind of tricky. We have to get positive 5 when we add, but negative 6 when we multiply. And there's really only going to be one way to do that. If we keep 6 positive and 1 negative, that would give us negative 6 when we multiply and positive 5 when we add. This would factor into a product of 2 parentheses. X squared would separate into x, and we would have a minus 1 and a plus 6. Now, if you remember when a isn't 1, we've got a couple of other factoring rules that we have to keep in mind. If we have a number out in front of x squared, we have to do a times c, and that would be negative 12. Now, numbers that go into negative 12 are 1 and 12, 2 and 6, or 3 and 4. They need to multiply to get negative 12, but then add to get positive 1. So looking at that group of 3, I think if we keep 4 positive and make 3 negative, that would give us negative 12 when we multiply, but positive 1 when we add. But remember, everybody, this is the rule where we have to do a times c, split that bx term. So if you recall, that means we have to take that x in the middle and actually split it using these two numbers. So we're going to make that negative 3x plus 4x. And together they would add to equal that 1x up above. Drop that first full term straight down, we're not changing anything, and drop the constant straight down. What we did here was we grouped. So group the first two and group the second two. Now in that first parenthesis, again, let's check for those common factors. 4x squared minus 3x, we could take an x out. That's a common factor. And we would have 4x minus 3 left over. Now if you look carefully in that second parenthesis, it's already 4x minus 3. There is no common factor. That means we have to put a 1 as a placeholder. It's important to have that 1 there just to show that those parentheses match. That gives you one factor of 4x minus 3. Then the two parts on the outside, the x and the 1, create that second factor. And there's your factored form for that quadratic. Take a look at this last one on the top. 6x squared minus 27x plus 12. If your first thought was to multiply 6 times 12, we could definitely do that. But I recognize that there's a common factor that all 3 of those terms share. I've got 6x squared, 27x, and 12. I notice that they're all divisible by 3. If you take out that common factor, that would give us 2x squared minus 9x plus 4. Now, unfortunately, we're still going to have to do a times c split the b, but that 3 will stay out in front. So we're just going to look at the 2 times 4. 2 times 4 is 8. Factors of 8 are 1 and 8 and just 2 and 4. But we need to get negative 9 in the middle. To get negative 9 with two numbers that add or that multiply to get positive 8, they're going to both have to be negative. That would be negative 1 and negative 8. And we have to split that bx term. Negative 1x, whoops, not x, negative 1, or it is x, not 8. Sorry, negative 1x minus 8x. And then again, drop that first term down, 2x squared, and that last term down, plus 4. Now I'm going to put a 3 on pause for now, but we're going to make sure to include it in our final answer. Let's put parentheses around the first two terms and the second two terms. In 2x squared minus 1x, we have an x in common, and that gives us 2x minus 1 left over. Notice in that second term, it starts with a negative, so that has to go out in front automatically. And then 8x and 4, we could take a 4 out of both of those terms. But technically, we're taking out a negative 4. Negative 4 goes into negative 8x, we have 2x left over. And then negative 4 will go into positive 4, negative 1 times. That gives us a matching parenthesis of 2x minus 1. And then again, those parts on the outside give us that second parenthesis, x minus 4. And then drop that 3 down in front as a common factor. And eventually we'll get to a point where we've got parentheses on the top and bottom of a fraction. And if the parenthesis matches exactly, then we'll be able to reduce. Next, I want to give you just a quick reminder of our special factor rules. We have 3 of them. Differences of 2 perfect squares. This happens when there's that bx term missing in your polynomial. So if you have a perfect square minus another perfect square, remember we said that could break down into 2 parentheses, where x squared just splits up into x times x. And then if you have something that's written as a perfect square, break it down into plus and minus what its square root is. We've done this a bunch, but it's been a while, so I just wanted to refresh you on this special factor rule. Down below, I've got just a couple of examples to model this. 5x squared minus 20. So this one's kind of strange because right away you see 5 and 20. They're not perfect squares. However, we do have a common factor. If you factor 5 out of both terms, we get x squared minus 4. And 4, that is a 4 by the way, 4 is a perfect square. That can be rewritten as 2 squared. When you have that difference of 2 squares, x squared splits up into x times x, 2 squared will be 2 and 2, and then there's just 1 plus and 1 minus, and you can switch that out, doesn't matter the order. Keep that 5 out in front as the common factor. The second one might look like it factors, but we have to remember that it only works for a difference. So this only works when you subtract. Therefore, m squared minus 16 is not factorable. That means it has to stay that entire term or that entire expression, and hopefully maybe it would cancel out with something in a denominator. Over here to the right, just a couple more. 1 minus 9x squared, there we go. 1 minus 9x squared, so if your x squared is second, it's still possible. Notice that 9 is a perfect square too. So this is technically the same as 1 squared minus 9 would break down into 3, and then x squared would be x in parentheses squared. And then this would factor, 1 squared would factor into 1 and 1, 3x and 3x, and then 1's plus and 1's minus. So 1 plus 3x and 1 minus 3x. I put the last two on here because we did talk a little bit about these in chapter 5. Quartic, x to the 4th minus 25, believe it or not, is factorable. This quartic function is a perfect square. So x to the 4th is the same thing as x squared, and 25 is the same as 5 squared. So this would separate, I know this looks kind of strange, this would separate into x squared and x squared, 5 and 5, 1's plus and 1's minus. Now x squared plus 5, obviously because that's addition, that would stay. X squared minus 5 could almost be factored, but 5 isn't a perfect square. Those would be the 2 parts in your factored answer. But watch what happens on the last one. X to the 4th minus 81, go ahead and jot that down. Again, x to the 4th can be written as x squared, and 81 can be written as 9 squared. And this would factor into our 2 parentheses, x squared and x squared, 9 and 9, 1 plus, 1 minus. Now the x squared plus 9, because it's addition, doesn't break down. But look at x squared minus 9 this time. 9's a perfect square. So this would be the same as x squared minus 3 squared. And that can be factored one step further. X and x, 3 and 3, 1 plus, 1 minus, and then don't forget to put x squared minus 9 out in front. This one has 3 parentheses in its final factored form. Do you remember the sum and difference of 2 cubes formula? First, let's talk about cubes really quick. Remember, 1 cubed is 1, 2 cubed is 8, 3 cubed is 27, 4 cubed is 64, 5 cubed is 125, 6 cubed 216, 7 cubed 343, 8 cubed 512, 9 cubed 729, all the way up to 10 cubed, which would be 1,000. Now the list goes on, but the first 10 are usually the most common for factoring purposes. If you have a sum of 2 perfect cubes, where you can break it down into something cubed plus something else cubed. Remember, this was the definition where we had a little parenthesis and then a big parenthesis. And it's very similar when we do difference, so we'll have that on the right-hand side when we're done. If it's addition here, it starts as just a plus b as addition in that first parenthesis. But then you take your a value and square it, and then it becomes minus, multiply a times b, and that's just that product, and then it stays plus, and then we do b squared. So it's always little parenthesis, big parenthesis, and that big parenthesis never factors further. When we have a difference of 2 cubed, this is going to look very similar. So over on the right, if we do difference of 2 cubes, again, we're going to keep that same list of perfect cubes. We don't need to rewrite that. But it's minus to start, then our first parenthesis is minus as well. In that second parenthesis, we'll have a squared, and then it goes plus ab. And this b value doesn't change the sign to negative. Notice right here that b value, it's just a subtraction problem. It doesn't mean b is negative. So just something to think about as you set up this factor process. Again, 2 parentheses, 1 little, 1 big, and the big one won't factor any further. To factor x cubed plus 64, we first have to recognize if that second number is in fact a perfect cube, because I know 64 is a perfect square. 64 can be rewritten as 4 cubed, so therefore the sum of 2 cubes applies in this breakdown. Remember, we get a little parenthesis and a big parenthesis. In the little parenthesis, it's just the first term plus the second term. In that second parenthesis, it's the first term squared, so that would be x squared. And then the formula is minus. Take the 2 numbers or 2 parts and multiply them together. X times 4 is just 4x. And then it's plus. 4 squared is 16. It's pretty easy once you have that formula up above memorized. So we have x plus 4 and x squared minus 4x plus 16. Over on the right, we have 4 times x cubed minus 32. We're not going to do that last one, so don't worry about that one. We're just going to do the ones, wow, there we go. All right, we're just going to do the one in the middle, 4x cubed minus 32. Now, when you look at the 4 and the 32, they're not on our perfect cube list. However, 4 is a factor of 32. We can take that out as a common factor. And that gives us x cubed minus 8. 8 can be rewritten as 2 cubed. So that's x cubed minus 2 cubed. And that would give us a little parenthesis and a big parenthesis. It starts off x minus 2. And then it'll go x squared for the first term. And plus x times 2 is just 2x. Notice it doesn't change sign. And then plus 2 squared, which is 4. And speaking of 4, don't forget that 4 as a common factor out in front. Another thing to refresh on will be our domain focus in this chapter. When we're dealing with rational functions, we're going to have fractions where x is in the denominator. So if you remember when we talked about function notation and we had n of x over d of x, when we talked about domain and range, the rule for the denominator was that it couldn't equal 0. And that's going to be kind of our main focus with these rational functions. So let's take a look at a few equations down below and see if we can state their domain. It says state the domain for each function. So we're just going to kind of go through each of them quickly so that we can start the CYU. For the first function, f of x equals 1 over x. X can be a lot of things, but in that denominator, x just can't equal 0. And notice there's nothing to move over to get x by itself. As we state our domain then, we're just going to say that x equals or actually just say x can't equal 0. Remember, that's called implied domain, and it can be anything else. Pretty simple. Obviously, they're not always going to be that simple, so let's take a look at another option. If we have in the second example, f of x equals 1 over 2x plus 6, and we say, well, we know that that can't equal 0, but x could technically equal 0. Let's just get x by itself. We'll subtract 6, keeping in mind that it can't equal that other side, and divide by 2. And x can't equal negative 3. That would be our implied domain. So far, so good. Let's keep going. We'll do one more. For this last one in this top row, f of x equals 1 over 3x minus 11. Again, pretty simple. The same rule applies, just can't equal 0. Move 11 over. 3x can't equal 11. Divide by 3. And for our domain, x can't equal 11 thirds. Those are the kinds of domain answers we got back in Chapter 5. Down below, this is what it's going to look more like with Chapter 8. State the domain for f of x equals 1 over x squared minus 4x minus 21. Now, when we look at that denominator, it's quadratic. And if we say it can't equal 0, we're going to have to solve by factoring. Thinking about numbers that multiply to get negative 21 and add to get negative 4. If we think negative 7 and positive 3, that would give us x minus 7 and x plus 3 as factors. And if we say they can't equal 0, then x minus 7 can't equal 0, and x plus 3 can't. Move 7 over. And now notice for our implied domain, x can't equal 7, and x can't equal negative 3. So we're just going to write it like this. We're just going to put it together. So x can't equal, I like to write them smallest to greatest, just like we would in infinity notation. So those are the two values x can't equal. Last but not least, if we have something in the numerator, like 2x plus 6 over x squared minus 4x minus 21, we're going to want to factor both the top and the bottom. In the 2x plus 6, we could take a 2 out, and we would have x plus 3 left over. And in the denominator, that's the same as the last one, so I did that on purpose. We have x plus 3 and x minus 7. If you look at that fraction, remember the domain applies to the denominator only, and we said that from before, x can't equal negative 3 and positive 7. And ultimately, in this chapter, what's going to happen is these x plus 3's cancel out. But our domain would have to stay intact. We'd still have to include that negative 3. So those are the quick reviews and quick refreshers for factoring and domain for Lesson 8.0.